that's my dad, you know. But on the other hand, too, like growing up, sometimes it can feel a little like pressure.
No one was supposed to be Bruce Lee. Hollywood certainly didn't plan for him. The industry that once offered him a role as a houseboy ended up producing the most globally recognized martial artist in human history, a man whose face is still on posters, whose philosophy is still quoted, whose films are still watched by people who weren't alive when he made them. Bruce Lee died in 1973. He was 32 years old. He left behind a wife and 2 children, a son and a daughter. Years later, tragedy struck the family again. In 1993, his son Brandon Lee was killed on a film set at just 28 years old when a prop gun fired a real bullet. Then, in 2024, Bruce Lee's wife, Lee Cadwell, also passed away. Their daughter, who was only 4 years old when Bruce died, is now the last living protector of one of the most powerful legacies in modern history. Her name is Shannon Lee, and her story is long overdue. Born into the legend, Shannon Emery Lee was born on April 19, 1969, in Santa Monica, California, the second child and only daughter of Bruce Lee and Linda Emery. She was 4 years old when her father collapsed and died in Hong Kong on July 20, 1973. Cerebral edema, a swelling of the brain. He was 32 years old at the absolute peak of his fame, days away from the release of Enter the Dragon, the film that would cement his global legend forever. Shannon has no real memories of him. What she has instead are stories, footage, photographs, and the particular weight of growing up as the daughter of someone the entire world considered mythological. Her mother, Linda, moved the family back to California, raising Shannon and her older brother, Brandon, deliberately out of the public eye. Shannon studied vocal performance and music at Tulane University, a classically trained singer, following her grandfather, Lee Hoi Chuen, a famous Cantonese opera performer. She married her college sweetheart, Ian Kiesler, in 1994. She dipped briefly into acting, with a cameo in her father's 1993 biopic and small roles in action films through the late 90s. For a long time, she was simply trying to figure out who she was without the weight that came with being Bruce Lee's daughter. And then, in 1993, before she had fully resolved that question, the world gave her another reason to grieve. Her brother Brandon was killed on a film set in Wilmington, North Carolina. He was 28. A prop gun fired a real bullet. He died before reaching the hospital. In the space of 20 years, Shannon had lost her father and her brother. Now she was the last one standing, taking control of things. After Brandon's death, Shannon stepped back from acting, from the public eye, from the weight of the name. Grief like that doesn't resolve quickly. It needs distance and silence. Time away from the noise, the legacy, and the expectations. After all, grief requires space before it becomes anything useful. By the late 1990s, something shifted. She looked closely at what was being done with her father's name and philosophy, and what she found troubled her. The brand was fragmenting. Licensing deals lacked philosophical coherence. The mass market wanted Bruce Lee, the action figure, the kicks, the nunchucks, the screams. The deeper ideas were getting lost. Ultimately, that's what decided it for Shannon. She had to step in and protect her father's real legacy. She described taking on the estate as having a lot of cleanup work to do. Shannon became CEO of the Bruce Lee Family Company and president of the Bruce Lee Foundation, bringing something business managers couldn't. She actually understood what her father believed. Bruce Lee's philosophy, Jeet Kune Do, was never just a fighting system. It was a life philosophy built on adaptability, self-expression, and the harmony of mind, body, and spirit. His famous instruction to be water was not a motivational poster. It was a framework for moving through a world that will always try to force you into a fixed shape. Shannon understood that, and she set about ensuring the world did too. "I loved the creative challenge of it," she said. "I loved the philosophy, and I was always trying to push that forward. But I don't think I was thinking about myself as much during the first almost 2 decades." That last line matters. Because the cost of carrying someone else's legacy, even one you love, is something Shannon would only begin to speak about openly much later, fighting for the real Bruce Lee. In 2019, the film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood depicted Bruce Lee as arrogant and ridiculous, a caricature who picks a fight with Brad Pitt's stuntman and gets thrown into a car door. The scene went viral. Tarantino defended it on the Joe Rogan podcast, claiming Bruce had nothing but disrespect for stuntmen. Shannon responded in The Hollywood Reporter, pointedly, directly, and in detail. She defended her father's documented relationships with the stuntmen he worked with and made clear she would not stay silent while Hollywood reshaped him into a punchline. The deeper challenge is that everyone wants a piece of Bruce Lee's legacy, and everyone has a version they prefer. Hollywood wants the action hero, the martial arts world wants the technical master, the philosophy community wants the intellectual, brands want the aesthetic, activists want the Asian American trailblazer. All of those things are true. All of them, taken alone, are incomplete. Shannon's position has always been that her father was all of those things simultaneously, and that flattening him into just one loses what actually made him extraordinary. His genius was precisely the refusal to be categorized. But all the time that she spent protecting Bruce's legacy left a need and a passion to leave behind her own legacy, something that she would be remembered by, what it means for her. Shannon Lee is 56 years old in 2026. She has spent more years carrying her father's name than he was alive to build it. She has outlived him. She has outlived Brandon. She is the last one left who knew Bruce Lee as a person rather than a symbol. In recent interviews, she has spoken with increasing candor about what that means, not just the weight of it, but the unexpected grace. She talks about legacy not as a marble statue to be kept clean, but as something alive, something that grows, adapts, and serves new people in new ways. Her father's be water philosophy was always about flow and evolving, and she has applied that to the legacy itself. She has said she resisted fully claiming it for years, operating in a supporting role to her father's story rather than standing in her own. The shift was gradual, a slow recognition that protecting Bruce Lee's legacy and living Shannon Lee's life were not two separate tasks. They were the same one. Her daughter Ren, in her early 20s, is studying environmental studies at Tulane and represents something Shannon speaks about with quiet pride. Not pressure, not expectation, just the sense that the values carry forward, whether or not the name does. "My father's legacy is one of love, really," she has said. "And I try to operate under the guidelines of love, what I really think that means when I put it out into the world." That is not a corporate mission statement. That is someone who has spent 50 years learning what it means to carry something precious and finally found a way to hold it without being crushed by it. Shannon Lee was handed one of the most powerful cultural legacies in modern history at 4 years old, before she could even understand what she was being given. She spent decades protecting it, fighting for it, and quietly losing herself inside it, before finding her way back to her own voice. After listening to Shannon's story, the question that comes to mind is, when you spend a lifetime carrying someone else's story, at what point does it become yours too? And is that a burden, a gift, or somehow, inevitably, both? Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more updates like this one.